Hello friends, we are going to deal with our next part of STEM, that is STEM part 2. This Friday, means today, we are going to deal with the topic of discussion is how to begin with critical thinking in STEM classroom in the sequence of last discussion. In last discussion, we had topic of understanding of STEM. Our panel members for today are Miss Nisha Shalendra Kulkarni ma'am, founder Oceana CL Group, Miss Kesar Patel ma'am, Principal Ma Anandamayi Memorial School, and Miss Shilpa Jejurkar ma'am, Principal Amba International School. Many thanks to our panel members to attend this session and giving their valuable time. First, we are going to deal with the first point, that is what STEM skills we should be teaching to our kids and why. The most critical skills that students must learn in order to be successful in the future. What are the skills that support all 4 STEM content areas? And this is going to be dealt with Kesar ma'am. Kesar ma'am, please.
Yes, so good evening, everyone. And as you all know, STEM is a very important area nowadays, because when we look, not now, but when we look for it in future, all the jobs, major jobs are related to be, are going to be related with STEM. Now, when we specifically look at skills related to the teaching and learning of STEM in schools, or how is it connected, I'll just like to quote a few things to you. Just stay with me for a minute. So when we speak about the skills related to STEM and exactly what we are looking at, the first and foremost important skill that we really look to give into the students is the skill of problem solving. Understanding that there is a problem. In this scenario, what generally happens is that the teacher is the one, and it has been happening over generations now, that the teacher is the one who actually provides the solutions to the children. What we are looking when we look at STEM education is how to give them problems. So for example, if you're sitting with your child and your child asks you a question, a simple question like, why do I have freckles on my face? It's easy to answer. As a parent, you have Google along with you. You can go over there, look in, find out the answer, get it back to the child. It's very simple for you. Don't do it. What you need to do is throw the question back to the child. Give it back to him. Why do you think does it happen to you? And then his mind will actually start rolling out. What is it? How did this happen? I threw a question and the question came back at me. How did this really happen? And this is when what we are doing is we are actually throwing the ball of problem in the child's court. He has to understand, and he will really try to think exactly, yes, why is this happening? Okay, is this happening? Should this happen or should this not happen to me? Am I different or am I not different? Am I normal or am I not normal? So his mind will start putting up questions to his own self when the question is thrown back to him. Of course, not at all times. I don't say that you should at all the time when he puts up a question, you also give it back to him. But yes, for certain such things wherein actually he can put his mind to use, you can give the question back to the child itself. Now, what will the child do? The child will definitely go back on the net, find out. You can also sit with your child and find out exactly what is happening. So this is how we actually develop the problem solving skills amongst the children, when we put the question back to the child itself. Second is very important skill which we need to teach the children is they need to have an understanding of spaces. That is an area which really what should I say, tweaks the mind. So for example, like when we drive our vehicles, Okay, we are able to drive our vehicles properly on the road or park our vehicles properly in the spaces because we have somehow properly estimated the exact space that is available, how much space my car will take. Everything is well calculated for us. Now, a child doesn't have this. When we push the child towards doing this, so like we have Lego blocks, we have other blocks, give the child a space, give him 5 shapes, give him a space. How does these 5 shapes fit over here? That is the realization and understanding of how the spatial skills can be developed among the children. These two are major things because see, when we speak of STEM, we speak of critical thinking, we speak of creative thinking, we speak of collaboration. These 3 skills come on top. Now, why these 3 skills are top? Because again, when we speak about the 21st century education skills, literacy skills also, then also these 3 are there. So everything is interrelated right now. And we need to really push the children into these areas and let them come up with problems, as I said. So we need to help them, we should help them to understand and cope up with these problems and like come up with the solutions related to these.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for your.
What do you suggest?
Our next point is, in the last episode, we discussed critical thinking and when children begin to think critically. So tell us some strategies to promote critical thinking in elementary school and what happens when classrooms meet higher order thinking. These points will be dealt by Nisha ma'am. Nisha ma'am, please.
Good evening, everyone, and Jai Hind to all of you. Thank you very much, Sushilji, for giving me opportunity again to speak on this platform. And I welcome all the other panelists too, Kesar ma'am, and the audience. So if we talk about critical thinking, first of all, it is we need to understand what is critical thinking. So critical thinking, high order skills, we want to imbibe into the children, but as an educator, as teachers, firstly, it is important to know why we want to do so. So critical thinking is a thinking which gives a tool to a child to think beyond its own boundaries. So how it happens? Critical thinking takes a child to the reflective practices. You know, when you are doing something, how many times as an adults or educators, we think reflectively. You know, we do actions, we do so many things. How many times we just think that how I do it? Should I consider it doing again? What are my mistakes? What are my perceptions? What are my misconceptions? So just think, when a child writes something or do something in a STEM class and considers it again and again. So this is called design thinking, engineering. So in the last episode, there was a question that what is the difference between traditional science, maths, education and STEM as an integrated or interdisciplinary approach to learning. So I think, in my personal opinion, that the T and the E, technology and the engineering, these two are the pillars which makes the STEM education different from the traditional approaches. These two things makes critical thinking happen in the class. So when we talk about engineering process, what is design thinking or the engineering process? So what do students do? They observe, they identify the problems. Firstly, what is important? To identify a problem, then only you will be able to apply a solution or find a solution. So identification of problems if I want to give you an example, as I told you that in my school, 9th and 10th graders made a app for COVID-19 to identify the problems in collecting the data for COVID-19. So what they have done, they gathered the data first, identified the problems. They went to the community people, they went to the parents. Okay, what are the problems we are facing? Why we are not able to cure ourselves, or why we are not able to maintain the social distancing and the precautions we want to take. They interviewed the public health workers. So what is happening here? First step, observing the problem is happening. It is a part of critical thinking. In normal course of action, in our traditional learning, what we do, we just make them understand the concept. There's no doubt that we make them understand the concept, but the understanding is merely factual. It is not conceptual. If you look at, I'm not using any visuals today, but surely from if I will get a chance for the next session, I would like to show you that factual knowledge is a two-dimensional process, and the conceptual knowledge is a three-dimensional process. So three-dimensional learning when happens, which we always talk when we talk about the whole child or the 360-degree development, that happens under conceptual learning. So when we talk about critical thinking and the design learning through engineering process, the first is the observation, identification of problem. Then I will get back to the example only. So they talk to the different people in the community. They gathered the data, and then they come up with the whole data, and we divided the students into groups, and then they design their solution. So okay, what can be the solution? So there can be many solutions, and they have to come up with the one which is the best one. So they try, then find some problem, then they try again, then find some problem. This is the trial and error method. It is also known as human thinking process, human design thinking. So what is human design thinking? How you see that the apps are coming. So they observe the behavior of the users. What is the problem they are facing, and what kind of solution they can provide, and they come up with the best apps. The third step, then the student did prototyping. So with the help of a programmer, they did, there is a platform, Just in Mind. On that, they designed their wireframes for the app. Okay, this can be the design, this can be the problem we would like to solve. So after that, when they finalized it, the best one, then they give it to the parents and the other members of the school just to try it, so that they can run their app and see if it is running properly, and what kind of problems or the things which we have left behind, we can include it to improve it. So this kind of thinking, what is happening here? This is the unfolding of critical thinking skills. So now I would like to come to the second question, which Sushilji asked: what happens when classroom meets higher order thinking? So, higher order thinking can be taken in three ways. So the first is the transfer of knowledge. I explained this in the last session also. So in terms of transfer, so what is the meaning of transfer of knowledge? So to understand that, I think we have to think what are the most important educational goals. I think the most important educational goals are to promote retention and to promote transfer. So transfer means when it happens, indicates meaningful learning, and retention requires that students remember what they have learned Whereas transfer requires student not only to remember, but also to make sense of and be able to use what they have learned. And critical thinking, being able to think, means students can apply wise judgment and produce a reasoned critique. So the goal of teaching is then to equip students to be wise by guiding them towards how to make sound decisions and exercise reasoned judgment. You know, many of adults are not able to do so. The skills students need to be taught to do this include the ability to judge the credibility of a source. What is the credibility of source? Many times we have seen adults sharing the absurd information on WhatsApp, on Facebook, without knowing the credibility of source, and misinformation is there. How we can imbibe that kind of thinking into a child, that they judge the credibility of a source, that from where this information is coming to me. Then identify the assumptions and generalization and bias, and how they can identify what kind of language I have to use, and understand the purpose of a written or spoken text. They need to identify the audience and to make critical judgments about the relative effectiveness of various strategies used to meet the purpose of the text. So these are few things which are into the transfer of knowledge we can consider. And secondly, the most important critical thinking I have already covered as a second ways of higher order thinking. So the third is problem solving. As ma'am just Kesar ma'am told, the problem, we want to create problem solvers. So problem solving. So what is, as a name suggests, to solve a problem. So what problems? We need to identify the problems first. So a student incurs a problem when student wants to reach a specific outcome or goal, but does not automatically recognize the proper path or solution to use to reach it. They don't know what is the path to reach to the solution. So the problem to solve is how to reach the desired goal, because a student cannot automatically recognize the proper way to reach to the desired goal. They must see or use their higher order thinking processes. So these thinking processes are called problem solving. So it may include like remembering of information, learning with the understanding, critically evaluating ideas, or formulating creative alternatives, and communicating effectively. So problem solving is the general mechanism behind all kind of thinking, including recalling, critical thinking, creative thinking, and effective communication. So all of these assert that to recall something, students have to identify it as a problem. Like, I need to memorize the planets, or a poem, or a list of capital cities. So how can I do that? That is the identification of problem. And they have to devise a solution that works for them. So it can be different for everybody. Every child is unique. So they can work out different solutions. One size cannot fit all. So similarly, critical thinking is a matter of problem solving. How well, say Shakespeare developed his characters. How he developed so many characters in his vast literature. And communication also involves problem solving. Who is my audience? How do I need to best communicate with them? So what words might I use to pursue? I think educator must be knowing Dr. Benjamin's Bloom's taxonomy. So the taxonomy takes you from the lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills. Although we only know the cognitive part of it, so there are 3 main domains in Bloom's taxonomy. One is the cognitive domain, which deals with the mental skills, which is the knowledge part, and the second domain is affective. That is the growth in feelings or emotional areas. That is attitude or self, how we develop a child's attitude, their mindset. And the third is the psychomotor domain. So that is the manual or physical skills. So we can take this topic endlessly. So I think enough of higher order thinking skill. So these are the things which take you higher order thinking skills in a classroom. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Beautifully defined your each and every point. We are going to deal with our next points. That is what are the stakeholders' perceptions focusing on the interdisciplinary nature of STEM education? Can you deal it, please, Nisha, ma'am?
Yeah. So is this question for me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So firstly, it is important, I think, to understand what is interdisciplinary nature of STEM education. So we talked about integrated STEM, that the 4 subjects all combined makes STEM education: science, technology, engineering, and maths. So what is interdisciplinary? First of all, explaining interdisciplinary word, it is important to understand disciplinary. So what is disciplinary? The disciplinary word comes from the discipline. So discipline means the subject which we are talking about. What are the rules of that subject, or what are the standards which we need to follow in that particular subject? Then the interdisciplinary means when we combine 2 or more than 2 subjects in it. Then comes the perception of the stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders in education? Parents, teachers, principals, administrators, and the school as an entity itself. So I think, first of all, to think about the perceptions of a stakeholder, teachers needs to be considered first, because they are going to deal directly with the kid. First of all, administrators of the school should have that kind of knowledge and that kind of attitude that we need to include the STEM education in their curriculum. There are endless opportunities, endless benefits. As Kesar ma'am just told us, that we need to equip our students for the 21st century. So what kind of skills we need to imbibe into them, which they require maybe 10 years down the line. So we have to think about these perceptions, and we need to think about the teachers' perceptions. So for schools to include quality STEM education, I think it is important to understand teachers' beliefs and perceptions related to STEM talent development. So teachers, as important persons within a student's talent development, hold prior views and experiences that will influence their STEM instruction. Sometimes, teachers think that, okay, where they will use it. I myself is a maths educator. When I was a student, I never saw that I'm coming in my future that I will be using these math skills somewhere. Addition, multiplication, division, subtraction. Let us not talk about that, because we used to go to market and fetch the bill, and we can do that simple plus minus. But what about the core mathematics applied skills? Where will I use the derivatives or integration? Never saw that in my as a student. I never think about that. Why on the second degree derivatives only we are calculating the slope? These questions, these whys never came to my mind. I was not a critical thinker. I accept that. So teacher, as important persons within a student's talent development, hold prior views and experiences. As I told you, they influence their STEM instruction. So I think we have to think about what are teachers' perception for STEM education. We have to show them what STEM education can bring into their experience as well as their students' experience. What are the application of that subject? Application brings the transfer of knowledge. As in the Bloom's taxonomy, also the third, if we look at the third stand, that is application part. And then it leads you to the last higher order thinking skill. Application is the third stand in Bloom's taxonomy as a lower order thinking skill. And the higher order thinking skill is to create. When you will be able to create new products by using that application. So I think teachers' perception is most important if we talk about stakeholders. They need to be addressed. They need to be changed. If they do not think that STEM education is important for their students, because STEM education will provide them tool to tackle the challenges of their life, their career, their jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We are going to deal with a few next points. What are the attributes of STEM educated students and what are the attributes of STEM academy in schools? These 2 points are going to be dealt with Keshav ma'am. Keshav ma'am, please.
Well, yeah. So if you hear shouts like Eureka, if you hear shouts like, oh no, I could not do it. If you hear shouts like, wow, I was making something and it turned out to be something else. If you hear these type of conversations happening in the school, anywhere in the school, you are rest assured that it's a STEM school. Because everywhere there is curiosity going on, everywhere there is experimentation going on, and everywhere there is innovation. So when we define or try to define the attributes of a STEM school, it is as simple as that. Please understand one point. Every school is teaching science and mathematics. But when we push the children towards a solution, when we ask them to come up with a solution, then they have to put to use technology. Then they have to put to use engineering. Then they have to apply the science that they have studied in the classroom. They have to apply it here. Then it becomes STEM. That is STEM. So only science, if you're teaching science and maths to your children, that is not STEM. But when you push them, when you prod them, when you plot them, that come on, think up of a solution, and they come up with something, that is STEM. So they use their science knowledge, they use their math knowledge, then they apply technology, they go to Google, they search, they put technology to use, then they bring in engineering, and then they put everything together and they come up with something which might fall down at the next minute. But the point is that yes, they have applied STEM. So the attributes of a STEM child will be definitely, number one, a very curious mind. A very, very curious mind. Always the mind will be moving here and there. What is to be done? Why is it this? If the teacher says that this is an adjective, why is it an adjective? Why can't it be an adverb? That is STEM. This difference has to be understood by the educators. That is what attributes a STEM school. When I say a STEM school, what is STEM school? Basically, when I see my children completely involved with so many tools and technologies, and even they are into the trash and into the plastic and trying to make an eco brick, that is STEM for me. So when the children are practically using science and maths, then going to technology to find out more ideas, bringing in engineering to put everything together, that is STEM for me. Okay, that is how I look at it. Now, a very simple thing, what parents can do or the teachers can do is tell them that let's make 2 tower blocks. Okay, make 2 tower blocks. Think of a superhero, of an action superhero. Design your own superhero. And now this superhero has to swing and slide from one tower to the other. How will he slide from here to there? How will he go? They've seen that happening in the movies. They've seen Spider-Man going from one building to the other. They are fascinated. They want to do it. But the point is, they have never done it. The minute they do it, they put two towers, they put a swing, they put a string, and the superhero slides. That is when they are into STEM. Parents have to understand that these digital natives have to be taken away from social media and put in towards technology. Now, when you use technology only for social media, you are wasting your time. When the same children use technology to find out, make apps, then it is proper positive use of technology. So when the parents say that take away the mobile, don't give them the mobile, they mean, okay, stay away from social media. Try to read between the lines of what is happening between a parent and a child, or what is happening between the child and the society. When you say don't give them the mobiles, actually at the back of the mind, the parent or the teacher wants to say, please stay away from social media. But they have never spelt it out that don't go to the social media, but use the mobile, search something good and come up with a solution. Where is that statement? We all say no screens, no screens, no screens for the children. What we mean is, okay, stay away from the social media. Understood, point taken. But what is not understood is how is that same social media can be used to actually change, convert these digital natives into STEM enthusiasts. That is the transition we need to do. And that is where technology is important. And that is the part of technology which is there in the STEM, which is not understood by anyone. But why is it not being understood? That is out of question. So a STEM school or a STEM attribute or an attribute which you want to see in a child will definitely be one with a lot of curiosity, trying to put things together, trying to break and again make something out of it. That is exactly STEM. And even today, when we speak of STEM, the parents feel that probably my child is going to be an engineer. Acha, STEM, computer engineer, khatam. अरे STEM वो नहीं है. STEM वहां है जब वो कंप्यूटर इंजीनियर कोई आपको सोल्यूशन देता है. ये जो एक थिन लाइन है, वो थिन लाइन किसी को नजर ही नहीं आ रही है. No one is able to see that line. So STEM means they want to study science, maths. हाँ, science, maths के कॉन्सेप्ट बहुत अच्छे होने चाहिए. अरे अच्छे तो होने चाहिए, बट वो अप्लाई कब करेगा? जब तक अप्लाई नहीं करेगा वो STEM की तरफ नहीं बढ़ रहा है. If he wants to move towards STEM, the science and technology, the science and mathematics skills have to be integrated, interdisciplined with technology and engineering to come up with STEM, and that is what is required. That is what the future jobs are going to be. So that's it.
Great, ma'am. Really, it's a development and connectivity between the subjects.
Yeah, just to add on, so what I can take away from Kesar ma'am's discussion, so we want students to be problem solvers. We want them to be innovators and inventors for that matter. And somewhere I think they should be self-reliant. They should know, they should be able to use initiative and self-motivation to set their agendas. And they should have that self-confidence. And they have this knack into them that they can work within specified time frames. And we want to develop them as logical thinkers. And as ma'am told, technologically literate. And that doesn't mean that we have to use social media only. So many platforms are there. Even they provide free training to the teachers. Minecraft is there. Then there is code.org, Scratch for junior and senior both. There are so many these platforms which are available. They make them technologically literate. The coding. Even my son is only 8 years old and he knows more coding than me. I call myself a STEM, enthusiast and a STEM educator, but he knows how to make projects through coding. So that is what are the attributes, I think, to add on to Kesar ma'am's discussion. That was wonderfully done, no doubt. So these are the attributes which, as a STEM educator, I can see in a student.
Thank you for your add-ons, ma'am. Next question we are going to deal with. We discussed the various attributes of STEM educated students. How can we compare these skills with the current philosophy of CBSE? Kesar ma'am, this is for you.
Okay, so we have spoken about, like even Nisha spoke about problem solving, reasoning, critical thinking, collaborative work, creativity, and everything. And all this is there in CBSE philosophy, okay, with education. They have come up with this AWS competition, which is related to coding, and again coming up with a solution of a problem. So the children have to make an app using AI and something like come up with a solution related to one of the problems of the UN SDGs as faced. So CBSE is completely aligned with STEM now, completely aligned with STEM. Whenever it speaks, it speaks of assessment, or it speaks of internal assessment, everywhere there are parameters given, and there are points given to problem solving, logical reasoning, critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, everywhere. And more than that, it keeps integrating these skills into the staff as well as the children in different ways. So sometimes it brings it up in the curriculum, or it is there as inter-school competitions, or it is there like something else. So it is completely there. So STEM is in alignment with the CBSE policy and the NEP which is coming up. So the NEP 2020 also stresses on innovation, entrepreneurship, so many other things, and everything is interlinked through the CBSE curriculum also. If you go through the books and CRT books also, it has been mapped in that manner. So it is completely in line with it. When the CBSE says for internal assessment that you need to do the activities, what are these activities revolving around? They are revolving around these particular skills. They are problem solving skills, they are critical thinking skills. So that is why now the major point is the only point is the parent community is finding a bit difficult to understand exactly what is STEM, what are these critical thinking skills, and how are they being inculcated into the children, because somewhere they don't reflect in the textbooks, they don't reflect in the written content. But it doesn't mean that it is not happening and the CBSE is not ensuring, because in every circular that CBSE says, off and on they conduct training related to AI for the teachers. They conduct training related to coding or apps for the teachers. They conduct training related to STEM so that the teachers understand how the STEM is to be inculcated into the school. So CBSE is completely aligned with STEM philosophy. The philosophy of CBSE and the philosophy of STEM, they are completely aligned one to the other. They are interrelated, they are integrated, and the interdisciplinary approach that they have adopted is absolutely a perfect one, which is blending well with the schools. It's going very well. Now, even if you see the MCQ based, the boards that are coming up, okay, now those MCQ based questions are nothing but they are case studies. So the children are analyzing, they are actually giving their opinions, they are thinking of what this problem is and what the solution can be. So again, this major step which has been taken towards giving the MCQs, though it's like it's a big bolt out of the blue, because the children are not really prepared, the level of comprehensions are not that really good, which really should have been in some cases. In some cases, yes, they are exceptionally good. So all this, what is this? Now, see, a very basic thing like reasoning. Okay, reasoning also somewhere the CBSE is bringing it into the curriculum, and reasoning will be an important part of the assessment system now. Already in this MCQ base, it has come in, because the children have to reason out maths papers, science papers, even SST papers. They have to reason out. There's a case study. They have to think, analyze, reason, and then arrive to a conclusion, and then put that tick over there. So reasoning is again very, very important, because somewhere see reasoning is also directly connected to depression also, which is actually rising nowadays. If an individual, if a human being can really reason out why this is happening, why this is not happening, if this happened, what could be the reason? If this is the result, how can the result be enhanced? If I'm not getting the proper result, what do I do? Why am I going into a loss? Why am I not able to pick? So the reasoning part is very important now. And this has also been inculcated very well by the CBSE. So when we speak of STEM, when we speak of CBSE, when we speak of curriculum, when we speak of assessment, things are in line. They are in line. But yes, as Nisha very promptly said, a lot of training has to be given to the educators and the parents, and I mean all the stakeholders, to help them understand certain minute differences that are there, minute lines and invisible lines which are there, which they cross over and they don't realize that we have crossed over. So we need to make them understand. Awareness has to be spread of exactly what this is and how this is done. And I'm sure that, yes, we are in step with what the futuristic world is demanding. We'll be able to give them.
Great, ma'am. Great input from your side.
So
next
may I take your
point.
leave?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Next point we are going to take, that is, what are the attributes of STEM in middle and higher classrooms? Nisha, ma'am, please.
Okay. So I think we have almost done all these things already. So in the middle and higher classrooms, they should be, I think, active learning. They should be student-centered. Teachers should know how to equip and support some spontaneous questioning. You know, they should be able to make instant questions. Now is the time that we need to focus more on questions than the answers. They should know how to plan the investigation. That is the attribute which is there in the middle and higher classrooms. And these classrooms, I think, should be center for innovation and invention at itself. Classrooms, laboratories, and engineering labs should be one. There should be no separate entities, no separate rooms. They should be one only. That is the classroom only. And, you know, there should be small hand tools, malleable materials, and, you know, which last time we just talk about, like, making a, you know, cart out of that cartwheel, out of these bottles, caps of the bottles and the rubber band. These small tools which are available in the classroom only. They should be, you know, we are in 21st century. I don't know about the public schools in India, I mean government schools in India, but there should be computers, laptops, STEM softwares. We talk about like GIS or AVID, CAD. These in the higher classroom, they should be available in the laptops. And teaching should be supported by multiple modalities. One of the thing which I just thought, that furniture should be easily reconfigured. You know, we have to make groups. There should be no heavy furniture that they need few, you know, members or from other staff that they need to come to your class and move the furniture. Students should be able to do that. So furniture should be easily reconfigured. Then electricity it should be accessible from ceiling and the floor. And one more thing, that it should serve all students. Like, there are a variety of learning styles. There can be disability. These things are needed within the classroom. They should be in the reach of the student. teacher should know the learning styles of the student. If there are some disability students, they should know how to cater them in the STEM classroom. I think these are the important attributes in the classroom which we can see. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next point is, what should be the elements integral to the design of any STEM curriculum?
Yeah. So elements integral to the design of STEM curriculum. So how, actually this question is how do you make STEM curriculum? What are the things which is required? As I told in the earlier session also, that in India, there is a lack of STEM standards. We have standards for maths, we have standards for science, there are standards for engineering, not in the junior classes, but there are standards for engineering. We are following IITs, there is IEEE, there is some norms for technology. I don't know, but maybe it is there. But these standards are missing, first of all. So making any STEM curriculum, firstly, we need to set up the standards. We need to consider what philosophical and theoretical elements should be used to guide the design and development of such a curriculum. We need to consider what research and field testing support these elements. So what I have learned so far and used in my STEM classrooms, firstly, standards should be there. Secondly, there is a concept of understanding by design. Understanding by design, UBD, we call it UBD. It is one of the most widely used and research supported curriculum design in today's world. And many countries and there's education departments, colleges and universities already using this. They have even many publishers nowadays, they are using this models, UBD model, to design their curriculum. And there are 3 stages. I will just cut short it. There are 3 stages in the curricular development in UBD. These are desired results, assessment evidence, which is required, and learning. That is the planning part. And there is, representation of a rational and logical approach for using the standards, which are the desired results. What are the standards? These are the desired results which we need. And the important part is that they are backward mapped with the assessment evidence and learning plan. So backward mapping is there. So I think this next is the inquiry-based teaching and learning. So how to instill curiosity, how to guide an inquiry. So there are so many methods for the inquiry also. So activities within a STEM education curriculum should scaffold from confirmatory to structured to guided and to open inquiry. So there is a process. So if we take an example, suppose we need to teach some mathematical concept to a student. So you want to teach a 4th grader or the 3rd grader fractions. So you just tell them, these are the websites available on which the information for fraction is available in easy ways. There are some videos which are there. So you just use the guided inquiry method. You just facilitated the learning for the kid. And you just showed them, these are the videos and these are the information available on the particular website. You just go through it and come up with these many questions. You have to frame questions too. Then you need to answer, because those answers will already be there if the child is able to frame the questions. So this is inquiry based. So there is a proper process for it. Then after guided learning, there is on the higher levels, there is an open inquiry. where you can leave the child alone to search on the websites at their own. There is no hand holding. So that comes in later in the picture. But firstly, teachers can start with the structured and guided inquiry. So the next, which I already explained, is problem-based learning. So problem-based learning is student-centered instructional strategy. As we just discussed, that the classes should be student-centered instead of teacher-centered. So PBL, the problem-based learning, is student-centered instruction strategy in which students collaboratively answer questions and solve problems and then reflect on their experiences. And while reflecting on their experiences and finding the answers to their questions, that is inquiry in itself. And last discussion, Kajal ma'am explained the 5E model. The 5E of teaching, learning, and assessing. There is a cycle. So these 5 E's are engagement, exploration, explanation, elaboration, and then evaluation. And it is advocated by many curriculum designers and educational researchers that this is the effective planning and teaching that can lead to improved student performance. The next is digital curriculum, integrated with the digital teaching technologies. So that is important. Nowadays, we cannot think that there will be no digital citizenship. We have to teach that to our students. So this can be, digital curriculum has many advantages, like it is web-based, readily accessible from any internet connected computer. So schools can already, many schools are using that. So it should be there. Then comes the assessment part. So formative and summative assessments with both task and non-task specific rubrics should be there. There can be rubrics which are task specific, and there can be rubrics which are non-task specific. So today's standards are comprehensive in skills and processes, inquiry and content. They're robust and rich. They often have multiple right answers and require performances to assess them. Then comes into picture the performance-based learning, the authentic learning or the authentic assessments in which we work collaboratively on projects, then assess. Then, we need to consider, and I think we should have a separate panel discussion on the assessment part. Assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning, the 3 ways of assessment. What assessment is needed at what time? So I think these are a few things which are required to design a STEM curriculum, and these elements are integral for any STEM curriculum.
Okay. One of our last point is what are the factors that hinder the teaching of STEM as an interdisciplinary entity? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So firstly, I think we need to understand what is interdisciplinary learning. We need to understand why STEM is different from the traditional learning of science and maths. We need to consider why it is called STEM. Why not something else? I should add, in the beginning, when this term was coined, STEM, it was not STEM, it was SMET. It was SMET. Why science and maths are at the first and the last? Why it is there? We need to understand. These things have their core into the importance of interdisciplinary learning. That is the, that is the essence of STEM education, I can say. So I think there are a number of barriers other than that. Understanding why SMET or why STEM and why not SMET. So first of all, I think we should consider that STEM is easy to implement.
Okay.
Every teacher thinks, oh my God, coding? No, I have never done. Computer science? I know Excel a little bit. I know how to make worksheets. I know Word. No, coding, it is not my cup of tea. No, it is not like that. It's very easy to understand. We are not getting the teacher into the core computer science or information technology fields. But in 21st century, even teachers should know a little bit of everything. Not everything, but a little bit of everything. So I think that is the first barrier, the misconceptions or preconceptions and teachers' beliefs, as we just addressed. And many times, we think that, as I told you, that technology will bring more computers and hardware for the school. That is not that way. With easy steps to begin with, we can include technology into our curriculum, and STEM education can flourish in the school. Then we sometimes think as a teacher that technology means the ability to use and apply word processing or spreadsheets like Excel or PowerPoint. That is the meaning of technology. But teachers need to understand the actual meaning of technology, how to use it, the power of technology. Like I said, my 8-year-old made a project through coding on science. He described sometime I will share with you also. He described the deposition and the soil horizon through Minecraft project.
Great.
And I think everybody thinks that inquiry based learning, that is open ended. No, it is not. We have to guide it. Firstly, we have to go step by step. Inquiry is not that you just provide the tools into the hands of the children and you have to just see. No, you have to guide. Then there is a point when it will be open-ended and you have to go structure by structure. There are some misconceptions, and I think this is the biggest barrier, that hands-on learning and inquiry are the same thing. That inquiry-based learning and hands-on learning are the same thing. No, hands-on learning is more like project. In the Bloom's taxonomy, as I told you, that most of the educators use the knowledge domain, the cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy. They do not think about the psychomotor domain. That is actually hands-on learning. How you make them move in the class, the physical movement of the class. Are they sitting the whole day on the benches only and doing STEM? No, it is about making them move. Then there are a number of barriers that we need to address, that technology, education, and engineering are desperate or troublesome. They're easy to implement. We need to begin with. Somewhere we need to begin. Then everything will be at its place. Some people think that technology education teachers cannot teach science or maths. And I know there is a implication by the government that there should be masters in education than bachelors, but we should, as educators, we can invite those enthusiasts, technology enthusiasts to our schools to teach to our teachers and students. They can also, there are so many CSR activities are done by many companies. So we need to just find the right way to reach there. And just trust me, path is always there. We just need to find it. So I think these are the two These are the barriers which hinders the STEM education in schools.
Altogether, enthusiasm and motivation, that is much required. Only then they will be able to find all this. Everything is approachable nowadays. The whole
Yes.
thing is connected, and that is connected in a very easy way.
And I think this is the way of getting people motivated. Tell them and spreading the word that what is STEM education. And I think this is the purpose of these talk shows.
Right, very true.
Yeah.
And in fact, I will also request, if you are having such type of any information, please share with our audience. That will be, I think, easier for them to find out the right place to connect.
Yes. Right. We'll surely do that.
Thank you, ma'am. Today we announced today we discussed about our STEM part 2. In next session, we are going to deal with in STEM part 3, that is STEM for elementary classes. That is for kindergarten to class 3rd, and that will also be included for class 4th and 5th. So the topic of discussion for the next will be this one. Thank you so much, Nisha ma'am, for giving your valuable time. Thank a lot.
Thank you.